इसके बाद पॉप आया.
We are live.
We are live.
Right.
Gee, so yeah, I have Mahima on my left and Harsh on my right.
Who's always wrong, by the way. Bad joke. Bad joke.
आज क्या कर रहे हैं?
I have the right to be wrong.
All right, let's keep it that way.
Otherwise, you can sit here every day. Then even you will have the right to
No,
be
but
wrong.
she's sitting on your seat actually.
Multiple bad jokes back to back.
But markets are down, means below 25,000. What are markets saying? What market people are saying?
Nothing really. I think it's a consolidation after what has been a phenomenal run last couple of weeks at least.
I think the momentum money
Brushed
was pushing that run, right?
And FIIs.
True.
Yeah, momentum money basically.
Yesterday FIIs saw
Negative.
Yeah.
Sold 500 odd.
first time in a while, right? So you have that data.
No, so last Wednesday also we saw selling.
Okay.
So after 3 days again we saw selling, and after a month we saw both DIs and FIs selling together. That was interesting.
So that, yeah.
But that's 500 odd crores from both ends, so
I
it's
mean,
not a big amount.
Exactly,
per
and I
se.
wouldn't be concerned because otherwise all momentum indicators are positive. It's just that we are seeing a bit of a cool off.
Yeah, but there isn't much of a volume push which is coming from FIIs,
Correct.
right? Means
Correct.
day before yesterday also जो 8,500 crore का आया था, means 8,800 crores of net buys. If you strip off Bharti and JSW Infra, they would have been negative in that sense, because together they were around 14,000 crores which came in that sense. And yesterday also buys is 11,800 crores and to sell 12,300 crores. So the volumes are not much coming in there. There is a pause which is coming in.
And justifiably, sir. भाग गया है मतलब.
नहीं 70,000 crores आने के बाद you are saying it's there, but again couple of things which is coming into play, right? You have rising yields. In the US, which is there, long-term yields which are coming into play. Then you have China cutting rates, which happened to the morning, and that would and that's on the back of retail numbers which were little disappointing.
Yeah.
Below retail sales were much.
They need to their economy needs a push. So I wasn't
and
surprised.
even manufacturing numbers were good, but it means it was a growth, but below the March growth which was there. So there is an impact of Trump trade which
they need to push domestic consumption, because otherwise the economy will slow down very quickly because of everything that's playing on with regard to tariffs. So
so there's a lack of momentum which is
and metals are buzzing because of that. I hope they're still buzzing.
I think it's the top gainer.
I was hopeful today morning that metals will
Sectoral
buzz
gainer.
because of this.
Yeah.
But my guess is, maybe it's one of the top gainers. At least in the morning it was.
Nifty metal is the top gainer.
Nifty metal is the top gainer, 0.5%. But Nifty defense is down for the second straight quarter, and possibly yes, because it's run up so much in the last 1 week. So
14% last week.
14%.
Led by
14%. When I looked at that number on screen, I was surprised. Was ये क्या है? 14% मतलब मजाक चल रहा है.
नहीं मजाक तो नहीं है, बट वो जो क्या कहते हैं ना यूफोरिया है, उसके चक्कर में चला है. हाँ, एंड ऐसा नहीं है, इट्स नॉट दैट यू हैड वेरी हाई डिलीवरी वॉल्यूम्स कमिंग इन.
Exactly.
There was decent delivery which was happening. Even yesterday the delivery turnover was the highest for some of the PSU defense companies. So there is still buying at these levels which is there.
Curious to know what the shareholding looks like in some of the defense companies.
But you will get to know only of March, and the things have changed post March. So something you won't get anything before June, and that's the only thing which is there. But interesting to note, April.
You want to see, sir, number of shareholders? Fascinatingly, I want to highlight this point.
Yeah.
So government holding has been flat. Okay, 71% from FY23.
This is for
FY23 for HAL. It's my new favorite stock since yesterday. So 3.6 lakh shareholders in FY23. 6 lakh shareholders at the end of calendar year 2023. FY24 ends 7 lakh shareholders. 3 का 7 हो गया है. ठीक है. 12 lakh by end of calendar year 2024. 1.5 साल में 1 साल 9 महीने में 4x हो गया number of shareholders. At the end of FY25, it's sitting at
March end में basically.
13. ये last March and 13.5 lakh. 2 साल में 3 लाख से 13.5 लाख हो गया.
Interesting.
नहीं, इसमें बीच में कॉर्पोरेट एक्शन भी था ना इसमें HAL में, जिसकी वजह से if I'm not wrong,
One second, I'll check.
that helped increase the shareholder base as well, if I'm not
सब डिविजन हुआ है.
हाँ, सब डिवीजन हुआ है ना,
वो सितंबर 2023 में हुआ है.
हाँ, उसके बाद से जंप, उसके बाद
1:2 स्टॉक स्प्लिट है.
तो आपने जो बोला 12, 7 और 12 हो,
फिर भी डबल हो गया है सर.
I'm saying that it also helps.
Yeah, it helps new investors to come, but unique investors है ना ये तो. So unique investors going up is.
But that's the case for all PSU defense stocks.
What has HAL been in the last 5 years? 10 back?
It has. Check किया होगा.
Easily.
10 back. 17 back in the last 5 years.
Yeah. So it's that. अगर आप देखोगे तो it's been.
And 8 bagger since 2022.
22, yeah.
मैं 23 से देखना चाहता हूँ because number of shareholders have gone up.
Interesting.
1300 to 4600 since April 2023. Anyway, sorry.
So
Yeah.
My obsession.
No, it is an obsession for all people because defense as a portfolio was very minuscule.
Yeah.
Because see, what used to happen was defense was part of the capital goods or capital, how capital goods के अंदर ही आता था पूरा.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, it's part of that. It was never taken as a separate category. Globally, if you look at many of the portfolios, they have defense companies as a separate category. Which comes into play.
But our defense budget has also gone up substantially.
It has
and
been
that's probably why.
Our defense budget has been higher on a year-to-year basis. But point is that the recognition for the market or the classification for the market saying that okay, we need to put a separate category as defense and it's just like in auto you have 2-wheelers के लिए अलग से allocation, 4-wheelers के अलग से, CVs के अलग से, EVs के अलग से, right?
अभी IT में ER&D आ रहा है, EMS है, manufacturing में और
वो सब product अलग आ जाता है, services अलग आ जाता है. Means the same thing is happening in capital goods as well, where a large chunk. So if you look at the capital goods as a basket, they would have underperformed.
Yeah.
But within the capital goods, if you add defense in it, the outperformance would be there in that sense. So that's what is interesting, in this entire thing.
I think another stock also is Data Patterns, which is down today. But Brahmos is one of the reasons as to why Data Patterns has been buzzing, in the past few days.
Okay.
It's interesting because I was reading about it, Brahmos, how the name came. It's because it was a partnership between Russia and India. It's Brahmaputra plus Moscow, which is a river in Russia. So that's how the name is arrived at Brahmos. And around 49.5% stake is of Russia's and around 50.5 is India's.
Oh, I had no idea about this.
And
So,
it's
but Data
interesting.
Pattern manufactures it or does
So,
it?
Data Pattern
no,
manufactures some of the parts of it, some of the assembly
And
parts of it.
which was
See,
being
no one-
imported from
so
Russia
let-
before.
the entire thing is that everything gets assembled by a PSU.
PSU,
As a
correct.
system integrated, like in Bharat Dynamics hoga, yes, someone else would be the one. Mostly Bharat Dynamics is the one which is there, but a lot of assemblies or sub-assemblies which happens across the board, across private sector companies and public sector companies. So like a Godrej and Boys, the shed which is done through EMC machines, the heavy machinery which is done is built by Godrej and Boys. Okay. You have something else, electronics case, maybe BEL would be doing it.
Okay.
Some chips and others or other things, Data Pattern would be doing it. So it's been indigenized to a very high extent by local manufacturing, and then it gets system integrated into one of the PSUs because high missiles and everything. But BrahMos itself is a autonomous body. I mean, it's a company which is joint venture company which is there. So that company gets it done. And then it's not only supplies to the Indian Armed Forces but also exports to other countries like Philippines or any other country which is there. So there is a lot of demand which is coming in for some of the Indian missile systems after what we saw, and that I think we are underplaying it by a lot because we don't want to talk about it in that sense. But the demand is it's a pivot in the defense segment, especially when you're talking of aerospace, you're talking of defense, missiles, drone technologies. It's a pivot because, while we are not talking much about it, it increases the exposure. It's something like digital it was a digital was a pivot after COVID. You had digital payments was a pivot after the demonetization. These are the things which is there. So the growth which analysts are expecting could be much more than what they are doing. So yes, so at current point in time, it must have run up 30-40% with data patterns has run up. But the opportunity which it brings in, the technical know-how which it brings into that company is there. BEL signed, there are many more L&T. All those companies have so much of knowledge within the country that they can do it. A Cochin shipyard was running because why? The Indian indigenous aircraft carrier was built solely by Cochin. Right. Earlier, what we used to do, either you take it on lease from Russia or buy it from some other country. Correct. And then we do it. And that too, we used to get second-hand one. Naya wala nahi milta tha, second-hand milta tha. So those are the things which are now in play. And correct. And they're coming at a cost which is a fraction of what you normally pay globally.
And it's interesting because it's not just for captive consumption, but it's also being exported to different countries. For example, Data Patterns has almost 3,000 crores of worth that equipment that it had sold to Philippines. And right now, the revenue potential that analysts are expecting is roughly 16,000 odd crores right now. So it's interesting. They're already sitting on an order book of 1,200 odd crores for that particular equipment, which is being used in BrahMos. So it's a very interesting play for sure.
So, like I was telling you, the sector, HAL comes under sector capital goods. Within the capital goods, now you have aerospace and defense which has come in. Correct. So now it's a subsector where you are parking in more money. So
yeah, in fact, the Nifty also did that. The Nifty defense, I think, was 2022 was when Nifty defense came about. And I think they retrospectively went back to 2018 or 19 to peg the prices. And thereafter.
It's a thematic index, by the way. Yeah. It's not a sector index. Correct. It's a thematic index, which has been created by Nifty, NSE basically. But we use as a benchmark for defense. It has all the numbers which is there. So yeah, defense has run up a lot. What we are seeing is some kind of correction. Is there an opportunity? I think it is. There is a huge opportunity which is there, which we are not even, scratching in that sense, because it opens up a lot of opportunity for exports. Now, FY25 we ended roughly around 24,000 crores of exports, and I think the minister was talking about during a show that they're targeting roughly around 40,000 crores in export. I would say that we will shoot that by a huge margin. Means that's the kind of opportunity which is there. And these, you have, in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see a lot of private defense companies coming into the market.
Interesting.
That's something which is going to be a game changer for this segment.
Interesting.
Please hit like if you like Indian defense and if you like what we're doing. So please hit like, give us all the likes, subscribe to our channel, share it with people if you feel that this is useful, and also do your own research, because while we here are sitting and giving views, you might want to look at how much stocks have run up by, whether it's right at this point to enter some of these names.
True.
What are each of those names doing? All of them are working on their own niche product, and therefore you might want to do a little bit of that.
Every company has its own mode, and it also works in a certain business model. You need to understand that business model, then to understand how the company is working. Of course, the ultimate demand generator for them is the government of India, and since we will have our own defense budgets, it gets allocated accordingly.
Do you think the easy way to play this might be investing in a thematic fund? If not an SIP, but if a person does not want to study every stock present in the Nifty defense, do you think investing in a thematic fund would make sense right now?
You know, I was speaking to Alex, right?
Ah.
He was doing the same thing about thematic funds. So I think the SGFC had a different fund,
Yes.
which is there, right?
Yes.
It did give decent return, but it was much, the returns were much lower than the index itself,
Correct.
you know, in that sense.
Correct.
So I don't know if that's the right answer to do. But yes, if you don't have the time, you should look at exchange traded funds and thematic funds. And you're not talking about 1 year, you're talking about next 5 to 10 years, because that's the kind of, you know, part we are talking about. We're not talking about short-term gains and losses here. We're talking about long-term.
The other thing is that generally, whenever we've spoken to advisors about thematic funds, there is a lot of push with regard to thematic funds, but
Yeah.
there's also the
So much
very,
risk.
very strong view among at least the smart money investors that thematic funds are generally taken out at a time
Correct.
when
the
the rally
index
has already
pull up.
happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whether you want to participate at that point of time or not is the question, and
That's
that is where I am slightly cautious
Correct.
when it comes to thematic
You
funds
have-
in
But
general.
considering-
Nothing
So
with regard to
correct.
defense.
So
I'm
that's
saying
So
in general.
it's better to do into a flagship fund or a, you know, a diversified flagship or blue chip fund.
Yes.
That's the best thing to do, because that gives. By the way, you know, there's a research which is there saying the last 2 to 3 years, a large portion of new entrants into the mutual funds invested into small and mid cap and thematic funds.
Correct.
But while they have given some returns, those returns are much lower than what a blue
Index.
chip, in a blue chip fund or a diversified fund has given to
And
them.
plus
Because-
these funds, especially during the time we saw when the market saw a significant downtick, the down market capture ratio is so significantly high that these were the most beaten funds in
Always.
terms of performance.
Always.
Right? So that is also something that one needs
what
to
people
consider.
rarely see when they buy funds, unfortunately, is that there is a risk return involved. You
Correct.
can't just look at absolute returns over the last 10 years and say that this fund is outperformed. You have to look at the
that is
inherent
a
risk
inherent-
also,
yes, today.
which the fund has taken.
Since
How much churn do they
inception
do?
कितना किया है,
हाँ.
या 5 years कितना है, 3 years, वो तो past है.
Correct.
It's like looking at the past record of a company and
नहीं,
saying.
Correct.
वो भी देखो तो भी आप चर्न देखो, आप कितना रिस्क ले रहे हो, कैसे बेट्स ले रहे हो, उसके बाद बेट्स को क्या हुआ है, if they've sold out, have they sold out at the absolute right time, have they gotten lucky in the sell out and the buying, all of those factors
कितना
also
cash
count.
में है, all
कितना
those
cash?
things simple
I
as
think
that.
basic चीजें,
So
rolling
that-
returns है आपका, up market capture, down market capture ratio. These are the things that one must
So
definitely.
risk adjusted returns is what needs
Correct.
to be looked at.
Yeah,
Correct.
but you know, my thing is that if the market is going to consolidate at this phase, then the fund flow will happen through IPOs, which is coming.
Yes.
So you know,
Yes.
Belrise is one of the IPOs which is coming tomorrow. I think it's an auto component maker. If you look at the numbers,
You spoke to them, right?
I
recall-
spoke to them, and
telling me.
our producers can put that interview there of IPO Adda, which was there. It's opening tomorrow with 85 to 90 rupees. They're raising some 2,150 crores in fresh capital. 1650 crores is going to be used to deleverage the balance sheet. The company is into makes chases for auto company, makes two-wheelers, agnostic to ICE or electrical
EVs.
vehicles. And the best thing which was there was that, you know, it gives you a good perspective of where the two-wheeler auto industry was going. And I was trying to, you know, speak to them. It's a first generation company, and I think there's a succession plan in place where two of his sons are going to come into business over a period of time. But at this price, 90 rupees, you know, is a very attractive one in terms of 85 to 90. But it seems it's 25 times trading at 20 for FY25, which is a fair valuation for. अगर आप 14% growth भी देखोगे तो 17-18 times for an auto component maker. For FY26 is something which you could
What's
look
the
at.
export opportunity like, sir? Can
nahin.
they penetrate those
No, so
markets?
you know the
Where
point
will
is
the
that
growth come from?
20% of the revenues come from trading revenues, and that's what is suppressing their valuation also.
And
So
that
trading
they I think
revenues-
do with Dubai.
Yeah.
So
Trading revenue means in the
Yeah.
sense, I know I was trying to understand that they have this relationship with OEMs.
Okay.
So and as part of the OEM relationship, what they do is that they work 2 years in advance.
Okay.
For any models or any refurbishment that comes in, they work in advance because वो model 2 साल के बाद आएगा. तो अभी जो काम कर रहे हैं वो अगले साल के लिए आ रहा है. Plus they supplying currently. But वो जो अगले साल के लिए आ रहा है, there is a price point and price cap or margin which is there. So they do a lot of trading of metals and alloys and other stuff which is there through that subsidiary. But you know, margins बहुत कम है. 12.5% margin, EBITDA margin अभी है consolidated blended. If you remove that, margin should be much higher for them in that sense.
और consistency है क्या?
Consistency है, but biggest exposure is to two-wheeler, which hasn't even gone back to the pre-COVID in terms of volumes. Revenue value-wise it has gone up, but not volume-wise.
Because the high value bikes which are getting sold at this point.
That is true.
Royal Enfield and the like are doing very well, but some of the lower
Bajaj
value.
is the biggest client for them, by the way.
Okay. So 100cc isn't doing too well. 125 also okay.
Okay.
But as you go up on that cc curve.
But उनका chases है, right? So Bajaj and Honda are the two most biggest clients for them in that sense. So yeah, so it's an auto component, interesting one which is coming in. Fairly priced, I would say. Yeah, valuation wise is fairly priced. I don't know whether in this market they will get a huge
premium
gains on the table on listing or not. But interesting company to look at.
But
actually.
Margins are lesser than peers, no sir? We were seeing Sona, Komsa वगैरह
because
yesterday.
that's getting
because
suppressed.
of the
trading volume which is getting suppressed, right? So in that sense. Otherwise, what else we have? We have a lot of questions which are coming in actually.
Yes.
Indigo.
Views on Indigo.
क्या हो रहा है? What's happening in Indigo for you?
Lots happening. I mean, in case of this entire Operation Sindoor, for some time, of course, their overall performance might be impacted. But it's been a company which is, has been the market leader, no matter what, right? Even in terms of its performance, even in terms of its addition of flights, in terms of addition of newer geographies that they're exploring, newer routes that they're exploring. So in that case, definitely it's doing well. But again, the entire question of how they want to add more flights by 2030, the target that they have, plus the newer routes that they are exploring might overall impact their profitability and margins and EBITDA as well. Crude is one good factor for them. It's not been going high, so their the turbine fuel that they're getting in is something that might act positive in terms of their margins. But overall, बहुत बड़ा investment है in terms of adding their flights, plus जो routes वो लोग add कर रहे हैं, and because they are international routes, I don't know how, to a lot of extent, how much will they actually be able to execute
and many
that.
of the European and the US routes are coming through code share with Turkish Airlines.
Turkish Airlines, and that's going to be a big impact.
That's under risk now because and company hasn't said anything on it.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I mean, have I got this wrong? But I thought they said that it's beneficial for customers, so we'll continue it.
If
Sorry,
that is
have
the
I
thing,
got that wrong?
No. So it could be the thing. It's beneficial for customers, yes.
But ये आया था release में, sorry.
I have
Release
not
में
seen
नहीं आया था.
I don't think so.
Release में नहीं आया था.
They issued a statement.
No, they haven't. I haven't seen.
मैंने किधर तो पढ़ा ये, so that's why I thought.
But that's the only thing which is there. I think code share, how the code shares are going to work. They have a lease coming, lease which is there, which is coming to an end on May 31st. So that will, I don't know whether they're going to extend that or not. It's a damp lease of 555, I think, Boeing 555, which has more than 500 seats. बड़ा plane है actually, so which is there. But Matish Dosani has a question on IDBI Emirates.
सर पता नहीं होने वाला है कि नहीं होने वाला है. I mean,
there are two
frankly,
players,
it's
right?
difficult to call.
Emirates is there and Fairfax is there.
Yeah.
Fairfax का already skin in the game in Indian banking sector already है. CSB and India Infoline.
India Infoline, yes.
Right?
Not India Infoline,
IFL, sorry. IFL, हाँ.
IFL में भी है.
India Infoline, हाँ.
So IFL है, and I think they have one more play. I will find out and I'll let you know. एक और NBFC if I'm not wrong.
So I'm not sure that the exposure is for Fairfax is going to increase in this part of it.
So they were keen, but I think that the RBI is not keen on one player having multiple presence in banks. That's first. Second is then what the RBI will likely do if Fairfax comes in is they will merge CSB with IDBI, which is again not favorable. I think from CSB's perspective. But in my opinion,
and because our government and LIC will have a large stake in IPOs, वो होने वाला भी नहीं है.
Correct. तुम कितना भी करो वो कुछ ना कुछ stake शायद से बच जाए, which I don't think that Fairfax will be okay with.
Seems to be the keenly washed thing.
Yeah, but again, it will also depend on whether the government is okay with divesting to Emirates. अभी के लिए तो UAE के साथ issues लग नहीं रहे हैं कुछ भी. So looks clean. Yes Bank now has been taken largely over by Japanese conglomerate. So that has been taken care of. So now maybe IDBI. But frankly कुछ सुनने में मुझे तो आया होता तो मैं शायद से बोलता भी नहीं. I would have said no comments. But आया नहीं है. From what I
Take it.
This is an
Very
interesting question. It's all about money is all about fun is asking what is a boring industry?
And business for you, since experts say it will always be a boring industry that will make you money.
banking.
Very boring. I also don't like banking at all.
Finally, Mahima and me
On the same page.
are aligned with regard to
But do you think banking is a boring? I thought banking is a very interesting.
I don't like
I am just
Personal
making it sound
opinion.
boring. It's quite interesting that way.
Then naturally 30% of your index is that, yeah.
Banking, that's correct.
It's quite interesting. But
तो
क्या है boring business?
So,
Sorry.
बोरिंग
Is
बिजनेस
there a
वही है
view?
तो हर साल 10-15% जाता रहे एंड बिकॉज वो 10-15% जाता है so over a period of time the street starts giving it a premium saying that there is a consistency in growth in revenue and bottom line what used to be with HDFC simple as it
But even now so most banks do that
you and me मिला you also जब हम वो sheets excel sheets बनाते हैं ना कि projection आग बंद करके 20% डाल दो वो उतना ही आएगा और उससे ज़्यादा नहीं आएगा उसके लिए कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है एचडीएफसी के बैलेंस शीट चेक पीएनएल ग्रोथ देखने के लिए
नहीं सर 20% ग्रो करेगा तो बोरिंग नहीं है बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग हो जाता है क्योंकि
मल्टीपल उतना ही ग्रो करते हैं उससे आगे जाते हैं ना 1% आगे ना 1% पीछे
That's true.
So yeah but I mean I don't know
पर एचडीएफसी बैंक के साथ ये नहीं कह सकता
I think it's not.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, I think it's not very sector specific per se, but जैसे सर ने mention किया कि there are a lot of stocks और companies जो पता है कि consistently grow कर रही है और उनको premium valuation दिया गया है. तो I think it's also company specific.
Yes.
But I think what he's asking is कि boring धंधा क्या है? धंधे में boring क्या है? तुम defense तो बड़ा interesting कर दिया है अभी.
तो फिर consumption आ गया सर उसमें, but consumption बढ़ नहीं रहा है तो
even not at all.
बोरिंग नहीं हुआ बट what he's trying to say is कि everyday usage चीज है जो no matter what
Staples.
at the end of the day लोग खाने पीने वाले तो है
Staples.
Staples.
Like Colgate.
हाँ. Boring business. Yeah, that's true.
And Colgate has been doing well.
Gillette. P&G and Colgate, two prime examples of boring. And you look at the returns over the last 15 years, it will shock you.
Yeah. All right.
Begin Dharan. Diagnostic stocks have not gone anywhere in the last 4 years. Is long-term potential still intact for this? Means
starting valuations 4 years back were elevated because of COVID. Right,
Correct.
so keep that in mind.
For them.
After that, growth hasn't come through. So something to look out for. That when you're starting off only, if you're going to pay a high multiple, we were expecting COVID is now 3-year trend. अभी रोज लोग करेंगे ही tests, पर वो अभी चला गया है. Now might as well it might come back also, given that we've heard that there are cases now.
But that's not the case. The point is that ये industry which was unorganized or in 2019-20 is now getting consolidated with many players and there are now not just offline players but also platforms now providing these kind of services and that's creating a pricing pressure for everyone in every city. Means 10 lakh के ऊपर city में you will have this kind of pricing pressure which is coming. 10 lakh people लोगों के ऊपर की city में you have this kind of pricing pressure coming in. So the margins have almost become flattish. There's no growth coming in these companies. top line is more of a जितने आप centers खोलोगे उतना it's a kind of thing which is coming into play. Consolidation is coming into play in this segment. What is going to I think one of the key things and which Varsha also says that कि radiology में चले जाओ तो आपका थोड़ा सा margin expansion हो जाता है उधर. So people are looking at how you can get value added and other stuff which is there. तो normal baseline diagnostics में पैसा उतना बनाने को नहीं है. You have to give a value added like a radiology and others to bring in more margins and top line growth, or you are acquiring in local markets so that you have a big concentration market share in particular markets. So I think that is one thing which is the one in place. Excellent results from DLF. Mirza Akram Beg. क्या लगता है?
Execution, sir. Project completed, and that's why you saw that. Pre-sales were also strong.
Even collections were strong because cash has gone
not
up.
Not that Sajeet sir looks at pre-sales as a number. But
sir,
पैसा तो आता है ना
pre-sales
में.
कितना आता है बताओ?
20% आ जाता है.
और फिर उसका क्या करते हो आप?
वो that you use for working capital for the purpose of completing the project.
That's right. तो आपका कैश फ्लो में नहीं आता ना?
So बढ़िया है ना सर. Working capital की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है.
अरे but 20%
We always argue about this, but sir working capital की जरूरत
पर सर चलो इस बार कैश भी बढ़ा है उनका 4,300 करोड़ से 6,000 समथिंग करोड़ गया है.
तो एग्जीक्यूशन हुआ है. So इस बार मतलब say that wherever real estate companies are able to execute and complete the projects, the cash flow is increasing for them.
So look for low debt companies which can execute. Simple. यही है ना?
Yes.
जो clearances ला सकते हैं.
और तुम्हारे cash flow जहाँ पर आ रहे हैं.
करेक्ट. सो जो क्लियरेंसेस ला सकते हैं, जो एग्जीक्यूट अच्छे से कर सकते हैं, जो लो डेट है वो अच्छे है. DLF केस इन पॉइंट.
Collections has gone up significantly for them in terms
it's
of
all about
the
fun.
overall.
Has a question for Mahima. Think of 5 successful Indian investors and I bet it won't have any women in it.
Mahima is trying to change that. That's not a good question for Mahima, but Mahima is going to try to change that. In 5 years from now, Mahima is going to come back.
Bang on.
She's going to be 10 times the net worth that she is today. She's going to show you the net worth and she's going to prove to you.
Mahima क्या करता है हमें बताना.
She's going to prove to you, and no investments in Indigo and stuff like that. It's going to be all out of the box.
Out of the box, huh? Naman Sharma.
No, but Devina Mehra is one
Devina Mehra, exactly.
which stands out for me. She's done phenomenally well. And I think the industry in general has a lower number of
investors,
women
they're
participation.
talking about investors, right? I mean, I haven't seen women investors much. Though डॉली खन्ना का नाम आता है, पर डॉली खन्ना नहीं का इन्वेस्ट करती, उनके हस्बैंड इन्वेस्ट करते हैं. तो that's something which is there. But अभी रेखा झुंझुनवाला का नाम आ रहा है. But रेखा झुंझुनवाला is more bullish on real estate. As compared to equities.
You mean her own real estate?
Building.
तो अभी पैसा है तो.
But it's okay, food for thought. I mean, it's worth considering the fact that, but it's also, I mean, a little off topic, but it's also interesting because it's something that right now, probably what he's saying is correct, that the males are dominating the investing part, and that should be taken in a positive way, and probably we should be there next 5 years down the line, probably.
I guess so, yeah.
Yes.
No, and no reason why not.
I think NSE or SEBI's entire survey which came in a few months back,
yes, thank you for that.
Yes, spoke about how women are better investors.
I forgot about that.
In the market compared to men.
That was for FNO, right?
Not only FNO, but cash market also.
Yeah.
And how they face lower amount of losses compared to men. Simple as that. So you need to give the credit to them. They may be, the law of averages are working for them, but may not be the spike to reach there. But at some point in time, they will market.
Yeah, I think as the participation increases in terms of absolute number, you'll start to see that also play.
What is your view on Muthoot Finance? Naman Sharma has this question for you. Is it a caution for all gold loan stocks or anything else? What do you guys think of this actually?
So I felt the numbers were very, very frankly, I felt the numbers were good, but I think the stock had run up. So there had been a run up in the stock. It was at 2000 levels, it had gone to 2400 levels, and therefore you saw a bit of a cool off on the stock price on the day of the numbers. The numbers were okay. I was more concerned with regard to the microfinance business of Muthoot than the gold business.
Ashirwad.
नहीं, Muthoot Microfinance.
Ashirwad किसी और का ना?
Ashirwad भी उसका ही है, I think. But I'm talking about Muthoot because that's the listed arm. So उधर काफी pressure है. So that's one piece you want to take care of. Also, gold prices are coming off sharply. So you're seeing when gold prices come off, you will see pressure on some of these stocks. So the run up in gold was so solid. I don't believe it's come off substantially. But just the run up was so solid that anything after that, a 4-5% fall even in a single day was causing that dent. So maybe those 2-3 factors played out. But yeah, I mean, that's how I think of Muthoot.
Do you think that $200 gold prices गिरा उसकी वजह से gold companies को problem होगा?
प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा सर,
वो 60-40 का रेशियो लेते हैं ना ये लोग, या 70-30 का रेशियो लेते हैं?
या सो 75-25 का रेशियो है. So 75%. So if you give 100 rupees of gold, they'll give you 75 rupees of loan.
That's RBI, I think, but
they give 60.
They give 60. Right? So they have 40% buffer on that. मतलब gold prices have to fall from 3,500 to by 40%. आपको $1,400 गिरने पड़ेंगे उसके लिए, तब जाके आप मतलब gold has come back to 1,400.
Yeah.
A fall by 1,400 for you to be a little alarmed, basically.
Correct. But I don't think that's the problem. I think the inherent growth comes from gold prices going up. So say for example, you've taken a loan worth 100 rupees for gold worth 150 rupees. Now your gold prices goes up to 200, that gives you bandwidth to go up to 120 on your loan base. That automatically happens. So you might automatically go to Muthoot and say that give me 20 rupees more. Inherently Muthoot's loan base goes up by 20% without doing anything. Now that may not happen.
I think that was not allowed, right?
No, that is allowed. That is allowed. As long as your LTV is maintained, that is allowed. And maybe Muthoot may choose to maintain its loan to value, which is LTV, at 60%. And doing this will allow it to maintain that loan to value of 60%. So it should not be a problem for them.
So, but then the same case when gold prices come down, what happens then?
So when gold prices come down, that's exactly what happens. So you firstly will not go back and you will not be able to renew a loan.
Yeah.
You might actually, Muthoot might actually start to think to start pushing the customer to pay back the loan, if at all.
Okay.
Because what they will want to try to do is maintain that LTV of 60%. They might not do fresh disbursements and they might want to pull back some money from the customer. They might actually want to do that. There's no pressure per se, till Sir said, that unless gold prices fall 40%, there's no pressure. Yeah. But they may not want to wait for that long. They may start tapering down with regard to the book.
And these loans are that what, 6 months, 9 months, may not be more than a year, right?
Correct.
In that sense.
Correct.
The short-term loans which are there, basically.
Correct. And they've guided also, they've given a conservative guidance, to be fair with them. They've given a guidance only 15% growth.
Okay.
So they are not trying to extrapolate that prices are going to go up significantly. They are saying we'll tap into some new customers and we'll ensure that 15% disbursement happens.
Transformer
What's your
sector.
view on transformer sector?
After results of Q4,
Power companies have done decently, right? This time, especially, but capital goods में थोड़ा सा slowdown है. Especially thermal में we saw last year some orders coming through. I think this time distribution की orders भी हैं, तो yeah, it's not a hot sector at this point in time.
It's not.
It's not.
It's a boring sector. One of those boring sectors is power, which does 7-8% quietly. And power ancillaries. Transformers is not a boring sector at all. Transformers has done very well. So right now is very active. But I'm talking about core power and NTPC, Coal India. You know, those are somewhere.
Because the consumption is going to rise anyway.
Correct.
If not steadily, slightly in a better way.
Correct. And alert, Parag Parekh Flexi Cap Fund has added Coal India, more of Coal India in the last month. So I was just tracking it, and
Coal India is a very boring company.
Very boring.
Steady old company.
हाँ, मतलब it gives you a guidance and everything, and कभी meeting that guidance is a problem unless you are able to increase the prices, right? The
Yeah.
auction prices which is there, right?
40-50 हज़ार करोड़
Suraj
का
Jain-
EBITDA करता है और
So, yeah, we just need to, we have 3-4 questions
Yeah,
and we
we
need to
should
close
wrap,
this.
we should wrap.
So, Suraj Jain saying, are we going to see VIX coming to 13-14 in May month? I don't think means इतना नीचे गिरने वाला है. अगर मार्केट्स गिरेगा यहाँ से बहुत तो 13-14 में जाएगा, नहीं तो नहीं जाएगा मेरे हिसाब से. बट आई डोंट थिंक मार्केट्स विल रिमेन इन दिस रेंज 24 to 25,000 के बीच में.
तो सर विक्स गिरना चाहिए ना टेक्निकली.
ज़्यादा नहीं गिरेगा.
इफ इट्स रेंज बाउंड तो गिरना चाहिए.
13-14% बोल रहे हैं.
नहीं, कम टू 13-14
अभी 17 है.
हाँ तो नीचे आएगा ना सर.
ज़्यादा नहीं आएगा.
नहीं आएगा.
हम लोग कितना आप बोल रहे 30% नीचे गिरेगा.
Sorry, I don't understand how VIX is calculated, but my understanding of it is कि जितना volatility कम रहता है
यहाँ से 20% नीचे नहीं गिरेगा. That is the thing. 20% तो बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया.
I mean that kind of volatility is
You
not.
need to have that kind of event.
Correct.
Then उसके
Sanchit
बाद आता
Goyal,
है
Aavas Financiers. Why share price fell so much after the results, even with tailwinds in
Aavas
housing finance?
Financials.
again starting valuations. I mean some of these stocks are trading at 4 times price to book. So you might want to be careful that in an environment where the yields on some of these names are going to come down because housing financiers are affected by how RBI will change its yields. You'll also have to want to look at pass through. I'm not sure of what component of the borrowing that Aavas Financiers has is repo linked. If that is the case, then you might see, if that is not the case, my apologies, you might see some bit of pressure on margins as well. So maybe those couple of factors playing out. I don't have a detailed study, unfortunately, of Aavas Financiers of the Q4 numbers and what the impact of the repo change is, and therefore may not be able to answer that, but maybe a couple of factors you will want to look at. And starting valuation certainly not cheap. 3.5 times price to book is not cheap.
Not cheap.
For housing financiers. There's also some asset quality problem, maybe something you want to look at. Credit costs had gone up.
Solar
Kushal
ecosystem.
Dhakalia,
Acha.
he used to ask
Rating
about rating
agency.
companies.
CRISIL,
CRISIL,
ICRA.
Boring.
Care.
Boring businesses.
अगर फंड रेजिंग नहीं होगा तो उनका बिजनेस ही नहीं आएगा. मतलब आई वाज सीइंग समवन वाज शोइंग विद द प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ दिस कंपनीज. उसमें मुझे कुछ दिखा नहीं नया, कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं दिखा.
कुछ नहीं करते वो लोग.
It's like an annuity business.
Annuity business. Exactly like an annuity business.
And in a good time, if there is a huge amount of fundraising which is happening from debt, then they have to do rating and you get that, and then they have to maintain the rating.
But debt cycle आया ही नहीं है ये time. I mean we've not seen a debt cycle since a while now.
So that debt cycle has to come in for them to start making more money. Otherwise, it's a very boring business which he's saying. I think we are almost at the end of.
Vratik Jain, microfinance bottomed out or more pain ahead? Likely bottomed out. At least the numbers seem to suggest that maybe a quarter or two more of pain with regard to credit costs. Thereafter, you will start to see an uptick. At least that's what credit taxes are also guided for. Again, something to look out for.
I was speaking to Vishy on this microfinance thing in the morning, and I was asking him, do we have a number of systemically entire industry में microfinance का कितना exposure है? So he was saying कि एमफिन राइट एमफिन का डेटा जो है 4-5 लाख करोड़ का दिखाता है. मैंने बोला पूरा सिस्टम में कितना है? बोलो हर एक में देखना पड़ेगा, बट आई एम अज्यूमिंग दैट इट्स अराउंड 7 to 9 लाख करोड़ पूरे मार्केट का मिला के. एंड वहाँ पर वी आर स्टिल एट 3+ kind of thing, right? MFIN is allowing at least 3 borrowing from 3 lenders.
3 or less than 3.
3 or less than, which is very high actually, in that sense.
So sorry, just to clarify what Sajeet was saying, that that one borrower can borrow from 3 institutions, not more than 3. That's, or can take 3 loans, not more than 3. That's what.
And उसमें I think credit access का सबसे ज़्यादा exposure है. It has a big exposure in that.
Yes.
और उसका number कैसे?
Around double digit in terms of the number of borrowers that have 4 or more loans or something like that. Even Fusion is
20%. Sorry, you were saying 20%.
You were saying 20. Fusion is also double digit. This is also double digit. I don't know the exact number, but I will.
So as he is saying, there is a pain which is there. Maybe peak हो गया होगा, अब taper करेगा. और if you look at IDFC thing, though they are saying 3 quarters लगेंगे पूरा नीचे आने में. So maybe the same.
2 quarter लगेगा मेरे हिसाब से. Everyone's guiding for 2 quarters, but it can well turn out to be like a chemical space also. Every quarter they are like अरे 2 quarter आगे 2 quarter आगे पर आ नहीं रहा. Could be that also.
So yes, that's consumption में और कुछ है नया कुछ है.
Restaurant brands आया है सिर्फ. Good. QSRs have been doing good. They did good last
Burgers
quarter
and
also.
pizza लोग खा रहे हैं.
Pizza. I think it's more. I think same happened with Jubilant. Same happened with restaurant brands.
Suddenly
Delivery is picking up. Jubilant Food Works. If I'm not wrong right now, I think it's the top management change that took place. So when Suman Hegde took over, उससे कॉस्ट कंट्रोल काफ़ी हो रहा है, तो नंबर्स बेटर हो रहे हैं. एंड प्लस फॉर देम डिलीवरी इज वर्किंग देम. फ्री डिलीवरी, एक्सप्रेस डिलीवरी इन 20 minutes, ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आर वर्किंग फ्रॉम देम. प्लस न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स जो एट लोअर प्राइस पॉइंट्स है वो ज़्यादा बिक रहे हैं. तो जुबिलेंट फूड वर्क्स, आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग दैट हैज डन वंडर्स फॉर द कंपनी. एंड दैट इज वाई वॉल्यूम सब 12% वॉल्यूम QSR में हम देख नहीं रहते. इन टर्म्स ऑफ sales growth at 12%, it is it's a great work that's there. For restaurant brands, it's a turnover completely क्योंकि losses have narrowed. Overall in terms of them also the volumes were up almost 5%, which is not bad for something like a restaurant brand, because Burger King is not doing what Jubilant is doing in terms of express delivery, but I think it's e-commerce and quick commerce that's aiding their growth. Even that 5% probably
Westlife?
is coming. Westlife was okay, it was not very bad. For them, I think new product categories have worked well, because this quarter they'd done some Korean exclusive Korean basket of burgers and stuff that has worked well for them. So I think that has augured growth, but I think out of the three, Jubilant definitely is outperforming.
इसमें बेस इफेक्ट है क्या?
Base effect भी है 100%, because QSRs in the past 6 quarters they've not
Q4
done.
पिछले साल was a slow quarter for them.
Slow quarter for them, definitely.
So base effect
Base effect भी है, yes.
चलिए,
Okay.
so let's wrap up. We're leaving markets 0.3% down, I think, if I'm not wrong. Now with defense being down 1.25%, and I think metal is the only sector which is up 0.5%, and markets
Beating the pack.
अभी थोड़ा सा
0.5%.
selling pressure आ रहा है. You can see that it is there. 24,830 पे हम छोड़ रहे हैं markets.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys for joining us. चलिए आज स्टॉक ऑफ द डे ये करना है.
4% अभी क्या कर रहे हैं?
I'll
कर
check.
सकते हैं.
I'll check. I last I saw it at 7. That's why I thought.
Oh, मैंने तो फिर मैंने
Last मतलब maybe at 11 o'clock. Maybe before 11 o'clock.
4%.